Franklin's Flying Bookshop by Jen Campbell. Franklin loves stories. Stories keep him warm at night. His front door is a bookcase that keeps out the wind. There are lots of books inside the cave that Franklin lives in. He likes to read them out loud for everyone to hear. Every day, Franklin reads about King Arthur and roller skating, about electricity and baking. He reads about spiders and ballet and how to do kung fu. When the sun goes down, Franklin reads by the light of 1,000 fireflies, because fireflies like to hear stories too. But if it's a warm night, he spreads his wings and flies into the sky to read by the light of the moon. There is a village near Franklin's cave. Sometimes Franklin goes there, but it is always quiet, it is always empty, and he can never find anyone to read stories to. So Franklin goes home and reads about gymnastics and helps the bats in his cave set up a trapeze, and then he yawns very loudly and stretches his tail and climbs into bed with a cup of chamomile tea. He sleeps tucked up under hundreds of comics and dreams about Vikings sailing over the sea. One day, by the stream, Franklin sees a man. "What are you?" cries the man, quaking in his boots. "I'm Franklin," says Franklin, and he holds out his hand. "I'm a dragon who loves books, and I live in a cave." But the man drops his fishing rod and runs far away. So Franklin goes home and reads about music and helps the mice in his cave start up a band. Next day, by the farm, Franklin sees a lady. "What are you?" cries the lady, shivering on the spot. "I'm Franklin," says Franklin, and he holds out his hand. "I'm a dragon and a band manager, and I like ballet." But the lady screams loudly and runs far away. So Franklin trails home and reads about space and helps the fireflies make patterns like the stars in the sky. Next day in the woods, Franklin sees a young girl. She has bright red hair, the same color as the leaves, and she's reading a book sitting under a tree. "Who are you?" asks the girl, jumping up to her feet. "I'm Franklin," says Franklin, and he holds out his hand. "I'm a dragon who likes stargazing and playing croquet." "I love dragons," cries the girl, and she shakes Franklin's hand. "You're in the book I'm reading about a faraway land." Luna tells Franklin that she's read about remote secret islands, about treasure hunts and pirates, about fruit bats and acrobats and how to be a spy. Franklin tells Luna he's read about sword fighters and fire eaters, about circuses and anteaters, about flower arranging and carol singing and making apple pie. Luna and Franklin feel like they are made out of stories. Stories with exciting beginnings, thrilling middles, and very happy ends. Stories about new people and strange places and about making friends. They want to share their favorite books with as many people as they can, so they sit down together and come up with a plan. They hoist bookshelves up high with the help of the mice and tie ropes round and round to make sure they fit tight. They move a sofa, some cake pans, tie comics on with string to make a small, lopsided bookshop between Franklin's wings. Everybody climbs on board. Luna holds her breath. The mice hold each other. The fireflies gasp and the bats cross their toes. Franklin bends down low and runs as fast as he can. He sprints down the hill and spreads out his wings and takes off into the sunset with the help of the wind. Franklin lands his flying bookshop in the middle of the village. "It's the dragon," cries the fisherman. "What a monster," another cries. "His name is Franklin," shouts Luna, a fierce look in her eyes. "We built this bookshop together from the books in his cave. Franklin's kind, and he's clever, and he is my friend." There's a small silence. Franklin shuffles his feet in the quiet street. "It's nice to meet you," he says as he waves at the crowd, who have stopped in their tracks and are all listening now. "We have lots of stories we'd love to share. Please come say hello and pull up a chair." The fireflies light up the shelves, the bats cartwheel along the bookcases, and the mice clear their throats and start singing songs. It isn't long before the villagers start taking a look, climbing up onto Franklin to peer at the books. Franklin takes a deep breath as Luna passes out cake. He tells them stories about scientists and Antarctica and snakes. He whispers tales about dragons and how to make creme brulee. Everyone is listening to what he has to say. "Let's fly," Luna smiles as the fireflies dance and the acrobat bats show off their kung fu. They all hold on tight as Franklin takes flight, reading books by the light of the moon. All right, we just finished listening to Franklin's Flying Bookshop by Jen Campbell, illustrated by Katie Hartnett. And Franklin is a dragon. I thought it'd be fun to do dragons today. And you know, I always like to do art lessons, little art things that using supplies we have around the house. So just have a piece of cardstock. You could use recycled cardboard. And then instead of doing crayons or paint, today we're going to use paper and we're going to do collage. And we've done collage before, but collage is just cut up paper glued onto other paper. So these kind of looked like fun dragon colors to me. This is craft paper, but you could use paper from magazines, anything you have that you want to recycle. If you had different shades of green, that'd be fun for a dragon. All right, so first thing I'm going to do, I've got my piece of cardstock. And the other things you're going to need besides something to write with, I've got graphite and a pen. You're going to need glue, and you're going to need scissors eventually too. Okay, so to do my dragon, I'm going to start with the dragon's body. And I always think of dragons kind of having a big body. And then they have kind of a long neck, little pointy ears, and then kind of a smallish face. Maybe a little bit longer nose. Okay, and then I'm going to do eye, and we're going to do worry about legs and wings and things later. But right now, here's my basic outline of my dragon. And then I've taken this paper and I've cut it up into little pieces. I always think of dragons being kind of scaly. So look at my little tiny pieces I've cut up. And when you start working on your collage, if they feel like they're too big, once I start putting these on here, if they feel too big, I could cut them up and make them even smaller. But let me show you, here's how I cut my little pieces for my scales. So I just took my big piece of paper and I just kind of cut little random, I don't want them to be straight, so those kind of little random curvy shapes. And like I said, when I get ready to glue these on, if I feel like they're too big, I can make these even smaller. So let's start with the body. Just going to put some glue down. This is not a very big dragon, so this is not going to take very long. And now I can come and I'm just going to lay, I could even alternate between the different colors if I wanted, but I'm just going to lay these down and I'm going to keep them inside that line so that it still keeps my shape. This one feels kind of big, so I might make this into two pieces. My glue is drying really quickly. I'm kind of starting with that top line, and you can see it doesn't have to be perfect. It kind of can wiggle around there. When I go to do some of these on the bottom, if I wanted to, this might be kind of fun, I could kind of lift these up so that they're I could glue underneath them a little bit too. Let's see what that looks like. Oh, that's kind of fun. I think now that I'm gluing these down, I kind of like the ones that are a little more scaly looking, that are a little more kind of the triangular shape. I also could kind of alternate and then come back with the other color, fill in where some of those white spaces are. I think my main thing is I'm just going to lay these down because I don't want to have, I want to cover it up so there's not white showing underneath. So when I'll get all of the body done. And you could do this bigger if you want. Mine's kind of small. But if you wanted to make a bigger one, you sure could. So with paper, when we're gluing paper down like this, we call it collage. If this was on tile or glass, this would almost be like a mosaic. And we like to talk about patterns, and my pattern, I'm kind of doing every other color. I've got a darker green and kind of a lighter green. That's kind of my pattern. If when you're using the glue, if you get a little glue on your fingers and they're kind of sticky, don't worry about it because that's going to dry. They don't stay sticky very long. And you might kind of want to hold it up and see. I don't want that white, so I'm going to keep gluing until I don't have any white showing. Alright, so you can see I'm getting most of that underneath color covered up. And it's easy to do that because with this paper, you can also overlap paper on paper. So you don't only have to glue where there's white stuff. You can glue on top of other paper if you need it to hang down a little bit. But I think that's fun because it looks like dragon scales. I really like how that's looking. It'd be fun. Think of what other animals have scales or have the surface of their body looks like this. What about a turtle? You could do like the turtle shell and it would look like, you could have little pieces like this. Or what if you did a lizard? Or what about if you did a horned toad? I actually found a horned toad in my yard last week. I was so excited because I haven't seen one for a long time. But that would be fun to do. All right, but we're doing dragons, so I've got most of this done. I'm going to let this dry. And the other thing, I'm not going to finish all this right now because I just kind of wanted to give you an example. After this dries and it's all done, if there's still some white showing and you don't like it, you could come back with a green crayon or a green marker and you could kind of color that in so that it's all green. If the glue, like I just tried to draw it right there, if the glue is still wet and you try to mark on it, it's not going to let you mark. But once the glue dries, you can do that. Now I could come back, my little face, I could come back and do more of the collage, whoops, on his face. What else do I need to do to finish him? I need to come in and put some legs. I could come back and do wings. Now in the story, Franklin had these fun, he had red wings, and then I think these are kind of like his ears, but they look like little tiny wings. So I could come back with something red. When it's dry, I could come back with a red marker and do that, or if I wanted to collage, I could come back with red paper and I could glue, you know, maybe one wing here, and I could glue another piece of paper wing right on top of this. That's the fun thing about collage, you can keep doing layers. So after this is dry, I could come back and put, and I actually could probably do it while it's still wet too, but I could come back and put another wing there. And then I could decide if I was going to collage his legs. Oh, you know what I'm totally missing, and maybe you just couldn't see it because it was curled up, but you know dragons have a tail. So I would need to have Franklin's tail, and I could come back and collage that too. So I think he's missing, now that I have his tail done, I would come back, collage in the tail, and maybe do his wings and his legs, and he'd be pretty much done. So good luck doing your dragons, and we would love to see what you do. Feel free to send that back to us so we can share that. Good luck.